If you live in Nova Scotia, this cozy little campfire that you're seeing on your screen right now may be the closest thing that you're going to get to enjoying a nice relaxing fire on a summer's evening. So, grab a cold one, because I want to have a conversation about liberty, freedom, personal responsibility versus the nanny state that is Canada in 2025. Welcome to my fireside chat. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Johnny Says So. And I don't know about you guys, but to me at least, sitting around a nice, hot, crackling fire on a summer's evening is one of the most enjoyable aspects about summer, and it's one of the things that I look forward to the most all year long during the very cold, cold Canadian winters. And that's why I was pretty shocked and outraged when I saw that the government of Nova Scotia is putting a blanket ban on all open fires province-wide, effective immediately for the entire summer and into the fall. I'm not kidding, guys. Look at this. So this is a news release from the province of Nova Scotia. Province-wide burn ban in effect. Because of hot, dry conditions, there is a ban on open fires effective immediately across the entire province. The ban was put in place today, July 30th, and will remain in place until October 15th, the end of wildfire season. So they're just coming right out of the gates with this one. They are saying no fires for the rest of the summer. Not even the little chimney in your backyard or the very safe, regulated burn barrels at the campsites across the province. There is to be no fires at all whatsoever. We've had a lot of hot, dry weather, very little rain, and there's no significant rain in the forecast in the near future, said Tony Rushton, Minister of Natural Resources. By the way, guys, quick aside, as I'm recording this, it's pouring rain right now. But I do digress. The article goes on to say, we've had a lot of small, manageable fires this month, and conditions are now ripe for any small fire to grow larger. Nobody wants a repeat of the devastation we experienced in 2023. Now, if you're not familiar, we actually did have some pretty devastating wildfires in 2023. One of which was in Shelburne, and that one turned out to be straight up arson, but more about that later. And the other one happened just outside of Halifax, and it absolutely devastated the communities of Tantallon and Hammonds Plains. Now, this fire was started, as it came out later on social media posts, by a lady who was known for burning garbage on her property. Now, with the existing burn-safe system in Nova Scotia, nobody's allowed to have a fire already between 8 a.m. and 2. And she was there at noon burning garbage on her property right next to the woods. Now, she wasn't supposed to be doing that anyways, so it doesn't seem evident to me that any additional regulations is going to stop people like this from starting fires. All that's going to happen is you're going to be punishing responsible citizens who practice fire safety and know what they're doing. So he goes on to say, I ask all Nova Scotians to cooperate, respect the burn ban, and save their campfires for a safer time. A safer time? Like in the fall when camping season is over? Yeah, that's great. So the ban applies to open fires such as campfires, bonfires, brush fires, fires in chimneys. That's right, guys, chimneys. Those safe, enclosed, they're practically fireplaces in people's backyards where you're likely to have a garden hose nearby anyways. So ridiculous. And all other fire that is not enclosed and uses wood as the fuel. Unlike gas or charcoal fires, sparks could escape from an open wood fire and cause a wildfire. Non-wood burning devices like charcoal and gas barbecues and gas stoves are allowed to be used following manufacturer's instructions. So there it is, guys. The government is, at this point, allowing you to use your barbecue. Thanks, government. So, I want to show you the most egregious part of this article right now, and this is right at the bottom. People are not banned from entering the woods at this time, but that is another possible tool to help reduce the risk of wildfires if needed. And they did this back in 2023. They actually got to the point where they said, you're not allowed in the woods. No ATV rides. You can't even enter the woods to go fishing. That hiking trail right next to your suburb, forget about it. You're going to get a $500 fine if you walk your dog on a walking trail. This is absolutely insanity, guys. So this is an old clip from 2023 of Nova Scotia's Purple Tory Premier Tim Houston announcing the ban on going into the woods.
Effective at 4 p.m. today, all travel and activity within Nova Scotia's woods is banned. Travel
Banned.
and activity in our woods is banned. We're going to stop the travel. We have to do what we can to make sure we don't have any new fires popping up. So this includes hiking, camping, fishing, use of off-highway vehicles.
So is your fishing rod just going to spontaneously combust or something? This is absolute draconian government overreach. There's no other word for it.
It applies to forestry. It applies to mining. It applies to commercial activity on Crown lands, hunting and fishing. So, we can, special permits for commercial activity on Crown lands and others can be obtained, but you got to deal with your local NRR office on that. We're in a very serious situation in this province, and we need to take the steps that we can to protect Nova Scotians. So we'll do that.
So you would think that most Nova Scotians would see the faulty logic behind this ridiculous decision and question it or push back on it, but sadly you'd be mistaken. Most people here were perfectly happy to go along with it and even berate others who didn't agree with their opinion. It sort of reminded me of COVID a little bit. And I think that was really a big IQ test that most people failed. Now, I want to get into the Shelburne fire here because I found this to be very interesting. Canadian charged for allegedly lighting a fire that grew to be the largest in Nova Scotia's history. The Barrington Lake fire burned 23,000 hectares before it was brought under control. So yeah, a 22-year-old Nova Scotian man was charged for intentionally lighting that fire. So the fire forced the evacuation of more than 6,000 people and destroyed 60 homes and cottages, as well as 150 other structures. So it was some serious shit. But again, guys, no amount of restrictions or fines would deter these people. Somebody who would do something like this is, quite frankly, crazy. And they're not going to be deterred at all by a $500 fine or a $25,000 fine. I don't think it truly makes a difference. But it's not just Nova Scotia, guys. This stuff is happening all across the country all the time. Look at this one. Saskatchewan volunteer firefighter who set 30 fires in a month sentenced for arson. Logan Sebin sentenced to 18 months of probation, 200 hours of community service. Now that, in and of itself, warrants a different conversation about the ridiculous lax justice system we have in this country. So this guy was a volunteer firefighter who set 30 different fires. Absolutely crazy. Now moving on here, we have Manitoba RCMP make 2 arrests following wildfires. The Manitoba RCMP reminds everyone to be aware of burning restrictions in many municipalities throughout the province. Yada, yada, yada. 2 arson arrests have already been made by the Manitoba RCMP. So basically, we're reacting to irresponsible people and arsonists, ruining the summer for the rest of us. Canadian man who claimed wildfires were a federal conspiracy admits arson. This one's kind of funny. The country saw record-breaking blazes during the summer, and Brian Parr pleaded guilty to lighting more than a dozen fires. That's absolutely nuts, guys. Now, I realize this is probably an unpopular opinion to some, but I just think it's a really egregious example of government overreach and the expansion of the nanny state that just seems to get larger and larger every single year in this country. And you're probably thinking, what's the big deal? You can't have a fire. A lot of people lost their homes, their pets, and maybe even sometimes their lives in these wildfires. And yes, I think that's very unfortunate. But as I've demonstrated, guys, I really don't think that any additional restrictions or punishments or threats against responsible citizens will truly stop this stuff from happening. I really don't. And you're damn right I'm complaining about my freedoms being taken away. Because as Ben Franklin said it best, those who would trade liberty for security will get neither. And that's my show for tonight, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you think it's reasonable to keep people out of the woods, period, because it's a little dry and hot outside? I think it's ridiculous, but let me know what you think. And as always, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Johnny from Nova Scotia says thank you. Hey, Johnny from Nouvelle-Écosse, il dit merci, thank you.
Thanks to you. God
Thank you
bless
so much.
you.
Perfect.
We're from Quebec.
Yeah, Quebec.